This episode is made possible by Roundel. Partner with Roundel and reach the over 165 million guests who look to Target for joy and inspiration. Together, we'll design curated media solutions that are a seamless extension of the Target experience, all backed by unparalleled first-party data and measurement. Learn more at Roundel.com. Hello, listeners. Today is Wednesday, June 26th. Welcome to Behind the Numbers, Reimagining Retail, an e-marketer podcast made possible by Roundel. This is the show where we talk about how retail collides with every part of our lives. I am your host, Sarah Lebo. Today's episode topic is our June unofficial Most Interesting Retailers of the Month list. Let's meet today's guest. We've got three of our analysts today. First up, it's Becky Schilling. Hey, Becky.
Hey, Sarah. Great to be back here.
Great to have you back here. Also with us is Jeremy Goldman. Hi, Jeremy.
Excited to talk to you as always, Sarah.
Excited to talk to you. And also excited to talk to us, I would assume, is Susie David Canyon. Hey, Susie.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Okay, let's jump into our top 8 unofficial most interesting retailers of the month. As always, Becky, our colleague Ariel, and I, aka the committee, put together this very unofficial list of 8 retailers we're watching right now, based on which retailers are making the most interesting moves this month. The list is hyper-subjective, but supported with objective analysis. Becky and I are going to present the list in the first half of the episode, and in the second half, Susie and Jeremy will have an opportunity to edit our list, if their arguments are convincing enough. So, let's get into our top 8. Starting with number 8, Apple, for a whole bunch of innovations that Becky is going to tell us about.
Yeah, so Apple's back on our list. A lot of it was from the big event that it held this month. They announced Apple Intelligence, and part of that is bringing AI across a lot of its devices, including an improved Siri. They also mentioned that Siri will be able to tap into ChatGPT for certain requests, and they're also working reportedly on a cheaper version of its Vision Pro headset.
This one's tricky for me because I don't think about Apple. I mean, I know it's a brand and a retailer at the same time, but the things that they're doing, it's kind of like run of the mill. Everybody's thinking about how do you incorporate AI. I think they're trying to do too many things and updating too many, which is probably part of their playbook, right? Trying to update too many things that don't match back to older systems so that you have to buy all kinds of new systems. So maybe for that, I give them number 8, but otherwise, I don't know.
I mean, there's nothing more Apple than changing the headphone port, the charger jack, so that you have to buy something new. So, run of the mill for Apple.
Bad for the customer, though.
All right, number 7, TikTok Shop, for innovations in both live stream and visual search. Actually, live stream isn't so much an innovation as a milestone. TikTok Shop had its first $1 million live stream this month. What does that mean? A beauty brand, Canvas Beauty, which I hadn't heard of before, did $1 million in sales on one single live stream. And TikTok Shop introduced visual search, where you can look up an image and see the products.
I will say, I think that the TikTok Shop ranking, without editing anything ahead of time, definitely really interesting to see the image search feature for TikTok Shop. Users in the US and Southeast Asia can now take photos of items and upload them to be shown similar products. And I think, this is just obviously leaning into some of their strengths, particularly with Gen Z, 25% less likely to use Google than Gen X. And what we're really seeing is a fragmentation of search experience, and TikTok Shop is taking advantage of that.
Did you hear that little jab at me? Not trying to edit the list before it's time to?
You haven't done anything wrong yet.
I mean, I kind of would have taken Apple off the list. That was my underlying commentary there.
All right, we're going to keep moving on before we spoil the rest of the episode. Number 6, Fenty, for launching Fenty Hair. That's right, Rihanna's beauty company has expanded. This is a really smart move for the company that was founded on finding a white space, which was lack of shade diversity in makeup, and filling that space. Now the brand is leaning into diversity in hair care, and it's also leaning into just how successful beauty has been as a category.
I love this one. I think it's so clever that they didn't just do an extension, but they did a whole new branding too, right? It's Fenty Hair. And hair celebrity beauty is like a $1 billion market. Hair care is small, but growing. And I happened to see the Civic Science data that said that for the Ulta and Sephora spring sale, after skincare, hair care was what people said they were going to purchase. So it's definitely a growing category. And she is leaning into her brand really well.
I just feel bad that they missed using the tagline, make your hair shine bright like a diamond.
Fenty Beauty, Jeremy is available.
Thank you.
Number 5, Amazon for adding Grubhub to its Prime membership and creating shoppable content for live stream TV. Becky, tell us more.
Yeah, so Amazon said it was going to co-develop this shoppable content for its Streaming Fast channel. They're working with Group M for the partnership, and they're going to have a new content type that will enable brands to infuse product placements and messaging in their shows. We've seen a lot of great engagement with shoppers and shoppable content. So we're excited to see where that goes from a platform standpoint. They also added Grubhub to their Prime membership, trying to make sure that their membership stays top of mind for consumers and adding benefits as more subscription-based products come on the market.
Yeah, I mean, this is smart. I have been a live stream shopping kind of naysayer, hesitant on it in the past. I'm feeling that way less and less. There are so many different forms of live stream shop. This is just one of them. But I think even if it doesn't really work for Amazon, finding ways to incorporate buying in shows is smart for them.
I don't think we can forget to mention also the fact that Amazon Prime Day news just broke. They're going to be leaning more into personalized offers this year, which is definitely interesting and noteworthy. They're going to be also hosting Prime Day on Amazon.com/Espanol, which is new. So, kudos to them for trying to grow the Prime Day pie, I guess you could say.
Okay, number 4, Albertsons for partnering with Rokt. Becky, why is this important?
Yeah, so it's all about retail media for Albertsons this month. That's what we put them on the list for. You mentioned the partnership with Rokt. They are doing that to introduce non-endemic ads to its retail media network. And they are also launching the Albertsons Media Collective TV. It's a platform that combines retail media and CTV advertising capabilities. Again, CTV, retail media, measurement, all into one. And so that is the reason why we have put Albertsons on our list.
And one of your favorite analysts wrote up, I think, both of those stories, if memory serves, no?
Who's my favorite analyst?
Me?
Oh, me. It's me. Oh. No, I did it. Yeah.
Number 3, Instacart. We're still on the retail media train. Instacart's on here for adding shoppable YouTube ads and for a partnership with New York Times Cooking. Instacart has one of the biggest retail media networks in the US. YouTube has one of the biggest CTV audiences. So the match, more shoppable ads, it makes sense. We're seeing more and more offsite retail media. The last one, Albertsons, was offsite retail media. So is this. And so is the New York Times Cooking partnership. I think that these are the kinds of partnerships we're going to continue to see. And the New York Times Cooking one is interesting to me because it almost reminds me of that Best Buy CNET partnership that we saw recently. It's definitely not one-to-one, but similar sorts of alliances are being forged.
And it's also not new. Walmart, I'm pretty sure it was Walmart did it with a recipe sort of magazine. And what I would say, again, from the consumer lens, it would be amazing if Instacart had the technology to tell me I already bought pepper the last time I did a buy all so that I don't have another pepper.
This sounds like something you encountered, Susie.
It's a very specific issue. Yeah.
I feel like you should know if you have pepper. Like there's nutmeg maybe, but pepper.
I use pepper because it just was like easy instead of talking about the basil I'm growing. And obviously then I don't need more basil. But I just think that there are some limitations to these shoppable media things. And I'm all in on shoppable media, especially live streaming. I think that it does a lot of great things. I just think there are still some customer friction points that we just need to solve through. But it's amazing that it's Instacart doing it because they have a much bigger view on different grocery stores versus when Walmart was doing it and they only know what you've bought from them.
Well, New York Times Cooking, I think, is also like a key here. I mean, there are a lot of recipe sites that get a lot of use, but New York Times Cooking is a big one, and it's like a really chic one. I think it sort of says something about who that consumer is.
Agreed. And I think leaning into partnerships like that, I think that is something where you're building greater affinity for the retailer, that's something that we're probably going to continue to see more of. We've seen a lot of these partnerships we've covered over the last year and expect more to come.
Number 2, Costco for, that's right, launching a retail media network. This is huge for those of us who have repeatedly sat in meetings with our retail team asking why Costco doesn't yet have a retail media network. They have one now, it's launching, and I think that's a pretty big deal.
I think the idea that everybody is a member because you can't shop there if you're not a member is what's key. And they sell everything under the sun. And I think the reason why we weren't talking about it as much is because they didn't typically have a very strong online business, but they certainly have a strong sampling business and they do a lot in store, right? People know they're going to be there and they're going to be there for a long time. They have self-service checkout services in some stores. So I think it's ripe for the in-store retail media as well.
That's a great point. I wonder how Costco launching an in-store retail media network will affect in-store retail media on the whole.
In-store retail media is still tiny, right? And the amount of dollars that one would have to spend to go into all of the store footprints is gigantic, right, compared to online. However, because everybody knows that sampling is one of the components of in-store retail media, and Costco is such a big user of in-store sample, I could see where that would work for them. It's just hard to put TVs and other things that are digital across the entire store, across the entire country.
Yeah, in-store retail media is less than $1 billion right now in the US, so still pretty small.
Just a small point. I think what's interesting is all these retailers are making so many different moves at the same time in different facets of their business. So while I think they get huge accolades for the retail media move, tied to member data, where they've got a lot of historical data on each individual customer, a lot more than the average retailer, because you can tie back to that member ID. They also have an innovative partnership with General Motors, offering EV discounts through Costco as automakers are working to produce lower cost EVs in the stalling market. So kudos to them for trying something unique, again, leaning into a partnership.
Number 1, Walmart. For 1 million different reasons. Becky, I'm going to have you lay out what these are.
Yeah, Walmart regaining the number 1 position again for the month. They rolled out their new self-service insight solution, Walmart Luminate, which is integrating with Walmart Connect. They introduced their Walmart Plus Week. They're building a Gen AI-powered shopping assistant. They relaunched their No Boundaries private label, targeting Gen Z digital shelf labels, expanding their premium beauty assortments, launching Walmart Realms, a 3D virtual shopping, everything. Walmart is hitting all of the highlights for this month.
The Gen Z one, private label, was of particular interest to me because I feel like they're, targeting like Abercrombie, Shein, Urban Outfitters. Like this is like a corner of the market that I don't associate Walmart with. So that was a really interesting move for me. Okay, that's our list. So the final list, just to recap, is number 8, Apple, back on our list. Number 7, TikTok Shop, back on our list. Number 6, Fenty, debuting on the list. Number 5, Amazon, back on our list. Number 4, Albertsons, debuting on the list. Number 3, Instacart, once again, back on the list. Number 2, Costco with its list debut. And number 1, Walmart, which takes the same spot it did last month, remaining at number 1. Gonna give an honorable mention to 9 and 10. 9, CVS for some retail media updates. And 10, GoPuff for launching a private label. Now it's time for the second half of this episode, where Susie and Jeremy get to tell us where we went wrong. Okay, Susie's already kind of been doing that, but she gets to do it more officially now. Each of them, Susie and Jeremy, will have a chance to move a retailer up or down on our ranking list, and then to add a new company entirely. So, Susie, I'm going to have you go first. Make a move.
Sure. So I would obviously take Apple off, but I would also not have GoPuff as an honorable mention. I just think that instant commerce is not a thing in the U.S. today. It won't be in the near future. And I think it's kind of weird and absurd to think that GoPuff, I mean, they are doing, I thought you had that on your list because of the Tom Brady tie-up. They are doing some interesting things, but that is certainly not going to help them. There is no way that they can, in their words, redefine the future of commerce by having one really strong partnership. And nobody is going to go to GoPuff to buy GoPuff CPG products. So I would take them off.
This one's a little wishy-washy because our honorable mentions aren't like technically part of the list, but like we mentioned them, so they're still there. They're in the graphic on Instagram. Go check that out.
Did you expect Susie to follow the rules in fairness?
Go check that out at eMarketer. I don't think we gave Susie this specific rule, so I would be okay with taking GoPuff off. I wouldn't be okay with taking Apple off.
See, what's interesting, I hope I'm not talking out of turn because this is not what I was going to say, but I will say with Apple, I understand Susie's point because the moves that they made are very impressive, but they're not necessarily tied. They are a retailer, but their moves were not tied to retail, if that makes any sense.
They did, to be fair. They introduced new products, and every time Apple introduces a new product, it's a smash. So I think you have to, except for in certain countries.
But they're not doing that well right now.
No. But introducing these new products are what helps them to mitigate some of that loss.
And you don't have to be doing well. You just have to be interesting.
Correct.
But I mean, it's fine. You don't have to accept that I would remove them. But I don't think that just introducing a brand new Apple product makes you interesting, right? I don't know that the newness that they're introducing is revolutionary compared to their colleagues.
I think that Apple has a lot of AI potential, and so I think that shoving AI everywhere, even though it's not my favorite thing to do, I'm keeping them on. Becky?
I'll keep them on. I'm going to keep GoPuff on, too. I know that because Susie tried to double take two things.
Yes, she did.
Like, that's completely unfair. And so, one, because you completely negated the rules, I'm going to say no. But also, I hear what you're saying about GoPuff, but it's an intermediary trying to do something different and interesting. It's challenged. I don't think that anybody on this call is going to say that their system is not challenged in this country in particular, but they're trying to do new things and they're introducing this private label line. Do I think it will work? No, but that's not the name of the game. The name of the game is interesting.
I'm going to side with Becky because she's the committee and I'm a little indifferent on this one. Susie, I support you breaking the rules. You're allowed to break the rules. It didn't work this time. Keep trying. Jeremy.
Well, for my breaking, I don't know if this breaks the rules. I think it actually does, but in a way that's somehow more respectful than the way that Susie does it.
Did you just call me not respecting? Irrespectful?
No. You're hurting her Canadian sensibilities.
Oh, disrespectful.
I just think that Albertsons, for a lot of reasons, I would actually put it a little bit higher. I think that they have consistently kind of almost shown that irrespective of what happens with some of the, backroom drama regarding Kroger and whether or not they're going to actually, settle down together and have like a supermarket superstore, I think that Albertsons is making a lot of really strong moves to continually build their retail media empire. And it's not a flash in the pan, so for that reason, I would actually just move them up rather than, getting Betty off of it.
Where are you moving them to? For context, ahead of Albertsons, you have number 1 Walmart, number 2 Costco, number 3 Instacart.
See, I would put them number 1. I just think that they're not a flash in the pan. Continually, every single month, virtually every other month, they are making major moves, particularly on the retail media side.
Albertsons does not get to be number 1 for retail media TV ads. I think that's a really big deal, but Costco launched a retail media network, so they're not above Costco. Walmart did a million different things. They're not above Walmart. And I really liked Instacart's YouTube moves, so I'm keeping Albertsons where they are. I'm sorry.
Fair. Womp womp.
Jeremy, you almost had me, but then Sarah talked last and she won.
Sarah talked last.
Also, by the way, since you did talk a lot about GoPuff, I do think that it might be worthwhile to consider moving CVS up.
I agree.
I think it's worthwhile, to just think about the CVS news, which you covered, right? Which is, beta launch of a new self-service offering, partnership with the Trade Desk. Right. And that has, really nice audience targeting features, greater transparency with ad pricing. I think it's opening up a lot more inventory so that ultimately they can become more of a player within the retail media landscape. They also have a lot of data that other players don't have, just given, the nature of what they sell.
Okay, we're breaking all sorts of rules. I'm going to pose a question so we can move to our next part. Becky, would you be okay with moving CVS into Apple's position and taking Apple into the honorable mention position?
I also vote for CVS moving up for different reasons, but I know you're trying to keep us moving, so I won't tell you how hard it must be to sell commodity things that are price sort of given to you and make money.
I'm glad you're not going to tell us that.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
The moves that CVS is making are moves that they need to make, but because of the retailer and the environment that retailer is in, it feels more of a desperation rather than an interesting move.
Fine with me. We'll keep it as is. Susie, now's your opportunity to add a company to the list. What is your wild card?
Yeah! So I am adding Tractor Supply. We don't talk a lot about them. They were at a couple of conferences that I was at in the last few months. They are a very niche space. They have a lot of stores. They target small and medium-sized communities that are more rural. But what I think is really interesting about what they do and what they have been talking about is trying to find different types of partnerships, like with Martha Stewart and doing garden apparel lines, or with the Grammy Award winner Lainey Wilson and doing a whole campaign around life out here. They are doing lots of stuff with pets. They realize what's driving people in store, but they also understand how to use online and what type of customer that drives. They've been able to use a lot of data, and they have a new partnership. This was the newest news. The Revionics, they're partnering with them to do better targeting, better pricing, more advanced analytics, better understanding of who you are as a consumer to give you the right messaging at the right time. And so for that reason, I think they should be on our list.
Becky, do you accept putting Tractor Supply Co. on the list? It would kick Apple off.
Oh, that's painful. We're big fans of Tractor Supply Co.
We're big fans on our desk.
Yeah. Because of all of the things that Susie had said. And so I think it's challenging because they've been doing a lot of really cool things over the past 6 months. And I think you went through some of those, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll accept this move.
I'm accepting this too. I like Tractor Supply Co. I like these moves.
So what I would add to it too is that their sales are fine. They're flat-ish kind of, right? But they're not being short-sighted and trying to do things like cost cutting and like figuring out how to get there faster. And instead, they're expanding their store fleet. They're opening garden centers. They have like this whole, I didn't even know, they have a whole different sort of co-brand PetSense. So like they are really doing the right thing for their business and understanding their consumer and thinking about it long term. And so I think that's amazing.
Okay, Tractor Supply Co. is on. Jeremy, what is your wild card?
So there's a little streaming company I've been looking into lately that I think has a chance at making it called Netflix. And what's interesting to me about them, and to me, this has to be on the list, unless we're going to hold it against that this thing didn't happen yet. They are going to be debuting major brick and mortar investments in a few significant malls, in Dallas and King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, which is, one of the best malls ever, if you like malls.
It is a good mall.
And this is like a really big deal. They kind of talked about it a little bit last year, but it's going to have activities and food based on major Netflix series. I think that these types of things, like on one hand, do you do them for the PR? Sure. On the other hand, is Netflix one of the biggest brands within the consumer, zeitgeist? Absolutely. And it's entering retail, and this is the kind of thing that obviously if you see more future expansion into malls, that this could be a major kind of game changer in terms of mall traffic, increasing the upswing that's happening post-pandemic. And I think that you're going to start to see more and more moves like this from other players that have like a bit of largesse from their online streaming profits. Yeah. So, thoughts?
I'm rejecting this move, and here are my reasons that I think Becky will agree with. You said this is kind of a PR move. It is. It's such a PR move that it's something that Netflix announced last year and then again last month when it actually did make our list, or maybe that was 2 months ago. April. So they announced it several months ago, like re-announced it. They keep talking about it, which is why you're putting it on the list for now, because the news is staying relevant, which is good for Netflix. That is what you have to do. But nothing has changed in order to get them like on our list again. I think that once Netflix gets in malls, if it's interesting, if I go to the Netflix movie theater, if they let me in because I'm a former password sharer, then maybe they can get back on the list. But for now, they're not.
If only they were so smart to know that you were a former password. Like, can you imagine if the data usage was that clever?
And now I don't have Netflix, so.
You're going to, I mean, honestly, it's like the kind of thing where if you think about the type of data that they have and could they give you a totally unique experience when you enter. So yes, it is not launched yet. That is totally fair. Your rejection, I take it. But I look forward to being on that episode with you when this launches next year. And then I will play back some of what you said and I will
run the tape
then. Yes, run the
tape
then.
I'm afraid of Netflix having a personalized experience for me if I went into a store because I watched the serial killer documentaries and I'm terrified of what that in-person experience would be.
All right, so we're rejecting Netflix. Sorry to Jeremy. Okay, so as our new and improved June unofficial most interesting retailers of the month list, we have number 1, Walmart, number 2, Costco, number 3, Instacart, number 4, Albertsons, number 5, Amazon, number 6, Fenty, number 7, TikTok Shop, and number 8, Tractor Supply Co.
Good thing I'm not competitive because, you know... I win, Jeremy. Sorry.
We all win because we have a really good list that we can be proud of. So I'm very team oriented. I don't know about you guys.
Obviously.
That is all we have time for today. So thank you so much for being here, my co-committee, Becky.
This was a blast, gang.
Thanks for being here, Susie.
Thank you for accepting Tractor Supply.
And thanks for being here, Jeremy.
It was a pleasure.
Please give us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you to our listeners and to Victoria who edits the podcast. We've given you a really fun one to edit this week. We'll be back next Wednesday with another episode of Reimagining Retail, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Roundel. And tomorrow, join Marcus for another episode of the Behind the Numbers Daily.